Yeah, that's good. Hey, I'll tell you what, we appreciate what you do.
It's a shame the meat packing plant didn't work out.
That's all right. I mean,
Well, it was good for the borough.
well,
Structurally, they could get that location.
well, that was always a dump.
I know.
They used to jump Robertson tile in here. And
Well, yeah, it's not a,
We should probably roll that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Lorraine does have. Yeah, okay. Yes. I have it on my phone. I looked it up. She collected all of our cell phone numbers, phone numbers, emails, all that.
A lot of us have phone numbers, they're like phone numbers, now they're
Cell.
How are you? Good, how are you? Good to see you. You too. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Waiting long? I just got. There you are. Yeah. Hey, Jim.
hey, how you doing? Hi, young
This is
man.
Joe Magley. This is Jim. He's a neighbor
Yeah,
He lives on
I'm a
Cleveland
neighbor. Now, and you're with,
with Jackson Cook Care Camp in Scott.
who's that? I mean,
It's a law firm.
Yeah, we represent.
He's representing the senior center.
we're gonna need you,
Oh, yeah?
always. I mean, right now we have.
Testing.
somebody
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you, but I have a couple, I don't think he knows, I like to not just complain, but I have a couple suggestions too.
Okay, well, we just want to get this thing approved tonight, that's all.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna be honest with you, I mean,
No?
the neighbors and stuff are talking,
Oh, really?
again,
Oh,
well, what I'm saying is that we try to, well, we haven't talked about, we try to put it on the corner, approach the homeowner down there, it would be better on the highway. Right, if we could get it on the highway.
well, that's
Like,
probably, it's somebody else's property there.
well, I mean, we'd have to ask, I mean, and maybe offer them a little something, and, I don't know. But I just don't, I don't wanna completely shut the program down, these guys do a great job over there, but I don't think it, from what I'm envisioning, this sign is gonna fit the character of the neighborhood. Is the guy coming that sells it?
He's not coming.
Do you have any pictures of what the? I mean, Clark's been very good about the concerns of people, like people's work, they were concerned about, how bright it is. You know,
They all.
that's what we do, which is good.
Absolutely.
To get a better bang for the buck on cities. Courthouse and so on, and when seniors are there. After that, it's pretty much heard, it's, well, who's gonna see it, the kids don't care, the people that are coming out of the courthouse don't care. Like I say, there's somebody,
Well, okay.
that just ain't gonna fit, right where you know, I try to picture it. Right where they wanna put it. It's like right in my face.
You across the street?
Yeah, I'm like, right across the street, it's for good or bad. You know what I'm saying? And I don't wanna watch this. I don't know what else to say, I gotta think of myself too, I mean, where I sit and some of the neighborhood, you got the open space all there, right? This is gonna block it all,
Well, it's sitting what? Sitting this way, right?
you know?
So it's sitting this way, so the
Sitting
sign will
parallel.
go out this way and this way, so it'll sit.
And is it on both sides?
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the one side will face the playground. The kids sure don't care. You know what I mean?
We've heard from Scott Mitchell that there's some possibility of that school area being developed. Some-
Well, that's another sore spot. I mean, we don't need wait a minute, we don't need a 14-story apartment here. You know, again, just hear me out one second.
That's what you're here for.
There's a fence down there. For 20 years, we've been trying to get it out of there so the kids can play football. They can't even get that out of there. And then they want to build a 14-story apartment? You know what I
All right,
mean?
that's another issue.
Well, right, so, but well, everything's being overdeveloped. There's somebody standing,
Yeah, to show you the sign, it's an actual
it's
sign.
gonna be lowered.
I guess it probably could be lower.
Well, I mean, you wanna, how big is this? They're saying 8 by 10? I mean, that's a
Okay, so
huge
the
commercial
base is 3
sign.
foot. Right, the base is 3 foot, the sign, this part of the sign is 3 foot, and this is 2 foot. 3 foot, and this is 2 foot.
So it's about 5 feet.
It's a huge commercial sign. And I mean, I guess what we're gonna spend on it is gonna be 20 grand, you know?
About 8,000.
And that's with the electrical hook, you gotta go
Well,
underground,
the
right?
electrical hookup is actually, the electrical
Well, how much is that? You can't, we have to go under the ground, right?
correct.
How much is that?
It'll be probably a couple thousand.
Oh, at least.
This is all funded through a grant that we received.
Oh, that's fine. Listen, you know I love everybody over there. I go there myself. It's the only place I'm allowed in. But it's just too much. What I'm saying is if we can get down a corner, at least check with people, right? As you pull down the end of the street where the stop sign is.
Right there.
Oh, he's- I-
So this is complimentary, right?
Exactly. What are we at here?
Sure, this is the courtyard, this is the main avenue.
Okay, down here, there's a stop sign, right? And if we could approach, at least try to approach the homeowners, there's a big empty, he's got a big piece of property. Right? The other 3 corners don't have really the room. But this would be ideal.
Crosswise, now you gotta run electric all the way down here.
Wait a minute, there's a telephone pole right there, 5 feet away.
They'd be able to control it, okay? How you gonna control it?
That's a good
Control, you can control it from inside.
Control what's on the side.
Yeah.
No, we will go out,
So you go out.
go out, control it.
And then you're talking about asking this guy here to pick up his land and put electric. I don't know.
Well, what if he says, if you don't ask him, we don't know, and it would be the ideal spot. You'd be on the highway, there's other signs there that are lit up, right? There's more traffic. We see what the guy wants, maybe how, you're a lawyer, what would a lease, whatever, for
We have to check.
You'd have to get an easement, you'd have to ask him for an easement, he's probably one.
well, that was the next thing I was gonna say, he's gonna want a few grand, give it to him. I don't know what to say, this is, it's way too much. I want to support everything the cities do, this is overkill.
Courthouse has this line right here.
And I mean, I think the senior league does a good job, they do well. Bingo's always packed, always crowded, you have a great, I mean, how many more people can you fit in here? It is packed.
Well, we're always trying to get more people.
Well, sure, I understand, and you do a great job. What I'm gonna ask for is to try what I'm saying. Now, I didn't approach a guy or not, but they're very nice to Philadelphia, he's got a couple kids, and it's a great big open lot. See what they say. I mean, once you put that in, we're stuck with it. Part of what I'm asking is, if any, young man, if anybody's against it, let's put it in their front yard. Right, you want that in your front yard? There's Tracy, she does a fantastic job. But I'm asking, you want that in your front yard?
Because I think there's a lot of information that.
Sure. I'm here to work with this. That's how big it's gonna be. You still have a grant, right? Or wherever, it doesn't matter.
I'm not even gonna see it, because the trees are gonna cover all.
Well, what's the sense of putting it in there? You can't say it. I thought the idea was to bring it down.
Well, that's what we
If I
want.
think about all those trees are gonna cover it, it's not gonna be as wide.
That don't make sense what you just said, ma'am. I gotta respectfully say that if you put it in the sign, you don't want trees covering it.
The trees are gonna cover the sign. You won't be able to see it.
What's your suggestion?
We leave the right-hand side, that Belvedere owns that very nice people. Huh? That isn't awesome, I'm just saying, let's take a look at it. Well, why go for second best if we can get the best? Awesome.
That's literally in somebody's front lawn.
Well, like I'm saying, you're on the highway, there's already some signs. Of course, I'm gonna tell them, I've been working on my house, I just put 40 grand in there. I gotta put another 20, what about my home value? See, when somebody buys my house, they come, they see a circus sign. I don't wanna upset you, but I live there, I gotta think of myself. And I'm not against this, why we talked before the hearing.
Again, this is just a district judge hearing on his citation. This is.
I had it would be an ideal spot, now it's more.
I think we should talk to
Just separate that.
Scott, I think that was approached,
So now.
that's the best spot.
From Scott's perspective.
But I don't think that
It's a violation.
Okay, let's talk to them.
I think that's what you're gonna hear tonight, because that's an obvious thing to choose. I think when that was looked at a couple of years back, that wasn't gonna be around.
The guy didn't live there a couple of years ago, they just moved in.
No, it's just the zoning on that property, that residential site.
Well, that's what we have, residential. I mean, tell me if anything I'm wrong. I take the kick on the rear end, I wanna learn too. Isn't that what zoning is about?
Actually, I believe the retention
Well, where's that? We could try for that too. I mean, the guy,
problem. That's hard to do.
I mean, even if you put it, I'm not saying this, if we put it down at the, where the bridge road used to be, that's a good spot. There's electric right there, you like the old farmer's sign. Well, you just passed the senior center, 2 blocks back, we're having it, whatever. Huh? I'm talking about where the bridge road is. Across the street, there's that nice little spot right there. You can put stuff up there, if there's nobody really around that lives right there. You know, like the farmer, you used to get on the shore, oh, you just pass the.
You in the car.
You turn around, you put it there, you. That's not, that don't fit. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Actually, the first time I saw it, I was gonna.
Well, you're right, that's not what we're here for. But
I worry about your blood pressure.
We'll
work it out.
Yeah, we will. You guys are great. I'm not, like, against you.
Yeah, so Jim, what about the courthouse sign, when that's lit up, is that a problem?
The way it is now?
Yeah, the courthouse sign.
No, that's not bad. That's pretty low key. It's, I'm not mad, and the guy said, this is gonna be pretty bright. I asked him, I said, how bright is this? He said, it's bright. Hold on, man, let's try some other options. I think it will be better.
I think you're gonna hear that other options were already thought of way before we got this far in funding. But you'll hear, because I don't know the story of it.
I can't hear you.
I think you'll hear that there were other options identified or discussed and just didn't work. Way before we got funding for the sign.
Scott,
Yeah, it's great.
What about the rest of the neighbors, did they say anything?
Well, that's what they're saying, this is not gonna fit, they asked me how big it is, I said, it's gonna be pretty big for what the guy said, it's gonna be about 6 or 8 by 10, that's probably the highest.
7.5.
This little sign is 3 by 8, it's less than 4 by 8 panel, it's a big panel,
On top of the 3-foot thing.
on top of the 3 foot. The actual
Well, that
sign
gives
is
you,
smaller than a piece of paneling.
I mean, it blocks the whole view.
Feel.
The only view I got, really, to be honest with you, the only view I got. Have you been down there? So, you know. Yeah.
I grew up.
You're not the enemy here, I just wanna.
There's no enemies, the zoning or the zoning here.
I just,
There shouldn't be.
I just, it's too much. But I like Clark, he told me right away, Robert, it said, well,
It's a long road
he
to
said,
hoe.
if the Orange Robert agree with it, then it'll be off at night.
Yeah, it is, the
Flash,
time.
which is bad, seniors do the night of the two flash, and things like that, right? You know, and do
Funny.
that.
We're going down to, Antonio's a drink.
Are you here on this?
Perhaps. Volunteer to set up.
It's not gonna be,
It's on the sign.
It's on downstairs.
Then on a couple,
Also,
you know, but I thought I got a chance to talk to Scott Mitchell.
You're excited?
Wound up.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're all. Well, I'm just concerned about it being too much for it's gonna be. Look at some other options.
Isn't that end of the street from Pencil?
they're on.
It's right on the highway.
They're not
East Cleveland.
Two different topics. Let's talk about where the sign's supposed to go. You talk where you want it to
I know that new neighborhood, that moved in, nice couple. I don't think they want it there either. Everybody else. I mean, that wouldn't be a little better. You might be able to see it. All the time.
go. You do know it's going in the park. You know it's going in the park.
That's right.
It's going in the grass
Between
strip.
the grass strip between the two entrances.
We're pulling this thing on the left. Very right. Okay. On my room. I mean,
Does the sign for the district?
Husband says he can't see it. Apparently it's working.
not really, that's pretty low key. That's pretty low key. And this will be a lot, this is pretty flashy stuff.
It's called fancy.
It's pretty-
Well, they're high tech now.
What's that?
They're high tech now.
And they should be, they do great, I mean, they do pack them in every event, they're doing great, so, I mean, it's not like you know, nobody's not coming. What I thought was, when you leave the court and see, you get down at the end of the street, or make a right, right there,
It's mainly,
perfect.
it's mainly.
It'll be right on the
Well,
highway.
the problem is, we looked at that corner, that it's private property, and it's also, would be in a PennDOT right of way, so we would have to get PennDOT approval and the private property owner's approval, and they weren't interested at the time.
Well, how long ago was it? 'Cause this guy just moved in not so long ago.
The guy on the corner,
Yeah, the guy, young guy, he's, got a kid there, nice, yeah, nice neighborhood. But he's how, would that be that difficult to?
well, they, at the time, they weren't interested in having an illuminated sign in their yard.
Well, nobody can, that's why I said that you want it in your front yard, how about you?
I have it in my
Put it in your front
It
yard,
won't do you,
man.
it won't do you any good
Across the
unless
street. Well, I'm just saying, you want it in your front yard, like,
Wouldn't bother me.
oh, stop it. Whatever, I don't know, listen, I'm on my last leg, and you wait a couple of years, and then I won't be here complaining. This guy, you know, I've been working on my house. Still, I got about 40 grand and a lot of work, and I wanna, you know, I'm concerned with the value. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, am I in the way? I'm always in the way.
Well, council was only involved in this to the extent that it was being placed on borough property.
Yes, within 500 feet. And then go down
There was no one spoke in opposition.
And of course, it's not blocking their view. Like I said, it's, when I asked them, it's double-sided, which is fine. The kids at the playground don't wanna care about it. The people coming in and out of the courthouse on that side, they don't care about it. The people that are gonna see it are already coming there. And then we're stuck with a, you know, with a sign. I'm not against it, you know, I work, just playing. I'm concerned for the character of that'd be a good way to put it. You know, the character, right, I'm not, when I sit in my front room, I like to sit down and watch the one view I got is the,
We're gonna put a spotlight on it and have it flash.
well, that's what I asked him, and he said, you know, it's, oh, I don't know.
Post your birthday on
What's that?
it. Post your birthday on it.
I can't hear you.
You'll post your birthday on it.
Oh, I don't need that, I got enough people bothering me. I got that comment guy coming over, I said, next time you come here, I'm gonna call the police. I'm sick as a dog, I can't get up and down the steps, and he's banging on the door every day for a ride. And I was in the middle, I was in
You
the,
would know.
listen, I was in the middle, and they asked me, I always give this credit to the senior center. Clark helped me, that's the that Brecker helped, right? I was in the middle of doing that, he actually came up to me and said, can you take me out to 11th Town? I said, what? I said, don't ever buy this. You know what I'm saying, that's just, and it came out nice, that Breck, huh, Mrs. Swanton? And that's all due to the senior center, they fixed the roof, they're fixing things up over there, but this is too much. Here's
Oh,
what
no,
it
he was
is.
with Ted, he was one of Ted's besties,
I love Ted. He's one of these people that said, can you give me a ride to the bus stop? And when we're on the bus, can
My
you
name's
stop at the
Arden.
pharmacy? We were
My
3
name's
hours
Arden.
taking the guy
Mark,
5
nice to meet
minutes.
you. I'm Clark.
And then after 4
This is
or 5
Joe.
times, I waited for this guy.
I
And
live
then
right
they told him his girlfriend's got a brand new car, she don't wanna buy the freaking
My great
car.
house,
You know what I'm saying?
big gray house.
Everybody, you're looking on you.
They're right, well, you know what
I
he did
was
is a
wondering
nice
what
guy,
they
that guy
would
who
do.
shoots the pool down,
One thing,
But again, I was
agree with
just
you.
watching out my window, I was sitting in the front, he latched
it's
on
not
that.
going to attract
You know,
anybody to
his
come to
members
the
out of
place.
there. Now, I don't see
I
him.
don't think, because, if it was out on Pennsylvania Avenue where people come, that would be one thing, but, it's not gonna, I don't really care, but I just wanted to hear about this. When are they gonna change the sign for who the judge is?
There'll be an election, I think, in November.
Yeah, there's
Well,
much
then we show her the picture, here's what it's gonna look like.
That's
It's
what There'll be an election in
gonna be
November.
pretty big. And what is good, they can control it, that they don't make it too flashy, they're gonna keep it off at night, let's look at the good points too.
It's text, it's just,
I mean, that thing shows a picture of
that
a
thing
flag.
with the flag and all, it would just be like
It's
bingo.
gonna be a
Thursday night.
banner kind of thing.
What you want, right?
But
I
you
mean,
can control
they're pretty
from
versatile.
inside, what you're gonna put on it.
Yes, we would control.
And it's pretty versatile, right? I mean, you can put,
Yes, and we'll turn it off at night. We'll absolutely turn
and again, it's good to try
I'm
different.
hoping that you could get no vandalism.
Is there a lot of vandalism down there? The center's been really fortunate.
Well, there are kids in the neighborhood, you see the sneakers up on the wires. You're gonna, there's a ladder, maybe from your place, from them fixing, It's over on the school, and they climb up on the top of the
Is that where that
elementary
ladder
school.
went?
There's an orange ladder.
That was our ladder, we
Our
don't
ladder
need,
by the center.
yeah, we were looking for that. Because I use it to clean out the gutters, and, well, not me, but
Yeah,
the people
but
that
then
all
it's
work
over,
together.
like right in the front doors of the elementary
School.
school over there. So
I'm
that's,
trying to go over and get it.
yeah,
Bring it
we'll
back.
probably find, you know, I wish you luck with it, I don't see any problem. But I don't think it's going to be like you said, anybody who sees it there is on their way to the senior center or the park. You know, I mean, there's not a lot of other street traffic there. You know what I mean?
A prospective member that comes in, they see the sign, wow, it's impressive. People coming in and out of the courthouse, they're all local people.
Right, the courthouse people would say.
Generally,
Yeah.
they're
I
miles.
don't care, I would, you know,
The criminals.
People didn't stop at the stop sign.
but anyway.
And the school bus doesn't stop there anymore, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
Because when they were hanging out, things that,
I've been trying to get that fence taken down so the kids can play football. So I don't know, that's been like pulling teeth.
well, and if they could do something about the water in the tennis courts,
Oh, that's a good one.
because there's always a puddle of stagnant water.
Well, what they did was years ago, if you remember, they wanted to make ice skating in the winter. And they filled it with, they made it so you could fill it with water.
Well, it's, in other words, there's no drainage there. I mean,
No,
there has to-
exactly, because
there has to
it was
be-
for ice skating,
But it's for, you know, stagnant water, you know.
but
We'll work it out, so.
There we go. All right, we got it. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this session of the Morrisville Zoning Hearing Board to order Tuesday, August 3rd, 2019. I'd like to make one official announcement. Our regular secretary could not be here, so Suzanne Zukowski will sit in as secretary, and Ralph Persico will be member as regular. And can we have a roll call, please, Suzanne?
Absolutely. Starting with you, Mr. Chairman, Steve Schmelzer,
Present.
Wayne O'Neill, absent, Raphael Persico,
Here. Here.
Suzanne Zukowski, present, Solicitor Maureen Carlton, present, Stephen Ware, Zoning Officer, and Lorraine Robinson, Recording Zoning Secretary.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the August 2019 meeting, please?
There are none.
Oh, they're not done yet?
Not
Yet.
finished yet.
All right, we can skip last month's meeting minutes. And next up, can we have a notice of zoning reading, please?
Did you ask if it was posted properly?
That's next.
That's next. Notice is hereby given that the Morrisville Borough Zoning Hearing Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday evening, September 3rd, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. in the council chambers of Morrisville Municipal Building, 35 Union Street, Morrisville, PA, in the matter of the application of the Morrisville Senior Service Center, 31 East Cleveland Avenue, Morrisville, PA, 19067, for the premises located at Penn Avenue, Morrisville, PA, 19067, county tax parcel 24-012-081, which is owned by the Borough of Morrisville, 35 Union Street, Morrisville, PA, 19067. Applicant is requesting a variance from Chapter 465, Article 7, Section 53 of the Morrisville Borough zoning ordinance to allow an electronic message board sign in the CS1 Community Service Zoning District. Applicant also seeks any other variances which may be deemed necessary for approval of the project. Documents relating to this matter will be available for inspection during normal business hours at the Office of the Zoning Department at the Morrisville Borough Hall, 35 Union Street, Morrisville, PA 19067. All persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the granting of this application may be heard at the above time and place. Morrisville Zoning Hearing Board.
Thank you. And Mr. Ware, was the notice properly posted and advertised?
Yes, it was.
Thank you very much.
Do we need to make an addendum if we're including other sections? Right now.
We would at this time like to amend the notice and ask the applicant, a little bit prematurely, to amend your application to include both section 53 and 54 of the ordinance. We believe that upon second reading and discussing it with the zoning officer that it is applicable or appropriate to include both sections.
That's fine.
Do you have any objection? Okay, thank you very much. Before we get started, I don't know if there is anyone in the audience who would like to designate himself or herself with party status. Do you need an explanation for that?
Well, when you say poor, I mean, what, Republican, Democrat?
No. What it really, no.
I was voted dumbest kid in school.
What it means is, do you, if you'd like to become a party to the application or to this hearing, it doesn't prohibit you from speaking either for or against the application. But if you would like to become a party, meaning that you receive all notices that if you wanted to appeal, you would have the right to appeal the decision of the board, et cetera. So
I'd like to be a party to that.
you would like to be a party.
I want to know what's going on because I live right there.
Okay, if you would like to come up to the microphone and give us your name and address.
Well, yes, ma'am. I'm James Zalewski, Zaluski. I live at 48 East Cleveland Avenue in Morrisville, right across the street from where they want to put this.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'd like to enter the board's exhibits onto the record or into the record. We'll mark as Exhibit B1, the application of the applicant. Exhibit B2 would be the notice that was just read. Exhibit B3 would be the applicable provisions of the Borough Zoning Ordinance. Are there any objections to the board exhibits?
No.
None? At this point, we will turn it over to the applicant and his attorney or their attorney.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Clark Schuster, the manager at the Senior Center, and this is Joe Romagli, our attorney who is representing us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. As you know, we are here seeking a variance such that the Morrisville Senior Center can place an electronic message board on the small grassy strip in the center of the parking lot on East Cleveland Avenue. The sign will be approximately 8 foot tall by 7 foot 6 inches wide. It'll sit perpendicular to East Cleveland Avenue. It's as simple as that. And if you have any questions, Clark and I are here to answer them.
Yeah. Obviously, so the main concerns with that sort of a sign are flashing, rapid bannering, what hours of operation, how bright it will be, will it be onerous to residents that are nearby? And so I don't know if you can just, if you have, in your minds, how you plan to operate it. Are you going to put up some message for 30 to 50 seconds minimum and just slowly change through, and hours of operation, and whatever you have in mind.
I think our intent would be to post messages that will stay up there for a period of time. We're not really looking at a rotating sign that's going to be disruptive in any way, shape, or form of that nature. And yes, the sign will be turned off during the nighttime hours, probably after 9 o'clock or even 8 o'clock. It'll be off.
Okay.
And it'll be mostly text. There won't be any
Text.
graphics or anything.
You're powered up.
Are you finished?
I'm finished. Go ahead. I may come up with something else.
Great. I see you guys didn't really bring any type of display, diagrams. I mean, we
I have a concept.
have
Oh, yeah,
this,
that's
which
right.
was part of the application.
Sure.
Your human scale seems a little bit off, but
She's she's about 5.5 feet tall, and there's another 2.5 feet to go. That's probably,
yeah.
probably about right.
Currently, the senior center has a total of 3 signs. There is one at the telephone pole when you turn left off of Pennsylvania onto Cleveland, which actually needs a little bit of trimming, starting to get overgrown. There's the sign which is by the walkway to the right of the courthouse. And just full disclosure, I've actually presented at the Senior Center before, and I also am a member of Morrisville Business Association, which meets there. But your current sign is 4 foot by 4 foot. It typically leads to a door that is locked. So it's a little bit deceiving for somebody approaching the building that your main entrance would be to the right. Then the third sign is actually where your main entrance is, around the back of the courthouse building, which also is fairly substantial in size. It's a little bit better than 3 foot tall and 7 foot long. So my first question is, what is the intention with the existing signage, and why is that inappropriate? My second question would be, why do you feel it's necessary to have an electronic sign? 1 year ago, Morrisville High School came before the board almost with an identical application. Their sign, however, is located on a street with constant traffic, also need for communication to parents, to students. The senior center is set off of a main street. The idea of having scrolling signage, who is it communicating to? Because essentially you need traffic going by to have this revolving message board. Snipes Farm, which is not part of Morrisville, it's actually part of Falls Township, they have a sign with rotating messages announcing events coming up. However, they do it manually. They get out there, change whatever event title is coming up, and then the community sees those messages driving by. So that's kind of a lot of questions all at once, but maybe if we could start with what's the intention with the current signage, why can't that be reused? And what is the incentive or impetus behind an electronic sign in a district that essentially doesn't permit it?
The current signage will stay. That's the intent of the current signage. The purpose of this sign is well, the reason they're not reusing it, there's a cost factor. Am I correct? There's a cost factor in taking down and reusing the space for the old signs. I'm sure there are other reasons as well.
We're not planning to do anything with the existing signs. This sign would just merely enhance our visibility because those other signs are not illuminated. And that is really our intent, to enhance visibility and promote events. We realize there might be other more visible locations, but I think they've been explored in the past, and really with no end result there. So we just saw that this grass strip is a good place to put a sign, easily run electric out there to it. And the courthouse gets traffic there on a daily basis. And we feel it would just enhance our visibility in the community in the long run.
So why is an illuminated sign not enough? Why go the extra step and now it's electronic revolving messages?
Well, it's simply a way to announce senior center activities to a new audience that may not be aware of it, that's all. It's bingo Wednesday night, speaker on Thursday afternoon, that type of thing that we don't have now.
The only options available on Pennsylvania Avenue would be private property. And we informed tonight that was explored a few years ago, and there was also a PennDOT right of way there. It was just not feasible to put it on the corner of East Cleveland and Pennsylvania Avenue. Oh, my apologies. We found out tonight that a few years ago it was explored to put it on the corner of Pennsylvania and East Cleveland, but that is private property. And there's also a PennDOT or some restrictions with PennDOT. It just wasn't a feasible option at the time, and it still wouldn't be today.
But then you understand, based on location, the sign isn't visible from Pennsylvania Avenue. It's really only if you're on Cleveland.
Sure, it would be announcing to those in the parking lot or those visiting the courthouse. There would be some traffic and activity. And it is illuminated, so it may bring people in to see it if they see the light from the road.
Go ahead. Don't want to monopolize.
Well, I guess I'd state then that it seems the main hardship is that as you have events, daily events, you obviously cannot readily put them up on the current signage.
Correct.
So other than the 8.5 by 11 flyer you put out or something, no one driving by would know of the changing events weekly and such. And by doing this, you would be able to, and I imagine Wi-Fi remotely from a computer, change the event for the day and have it be publicized out.
Someone would need to go outside at the sign itself and change it, just with a remote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. So without having to manually take something out and put it on the hard signage, you could electronically change this thing.
That's right.
Readily, this signage type readily.
Yes.
So the hardship is that they cannot, put daily or weekly events up with the current signage type. As part of considering, we're certainly not against the senior citizens of Morrisville. Sure. We're not trying to give any. Sometimes this is a tough job that we do for free. The high school signage, when we granted that variance, did have some limitations on it. We did limit hours of operation. We could not quantify the light intensity output in terms of lumens. The people at that time, the sign representative, didn't know how to limit that, but I guess we'd wonder, would you be amenable to limiting hours of operation?
Oh, absolutely.
The refresh rate of the sign, and I don't think that's going to be a problem, but if we don't stipulate it, then, the code enforcement officer wouldn't have something to enforce. And then the other thing, which is somewhat subjective, is to limit the intensity of the lighting during operations so that it is not obtrusive, because we've got a whole line of neighbors there who we really don't want to be blinded by the signage, of course. Nobody does.
And the sign does sit perpendicular. It doesn't face the houses directly. It sits the other way. So the sign faces out towards Pennsylvania Avenue and towards the abandoned school behind it.
I see that it's double-sided.
It is.
Both sides would be illuminated, same message, both sides?
Yes.
Okay. Ralph, do you have anything? Any questions?
The sign is limited only to the 5 by 7.5. Then you have a podium that it sits on.
So I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I forgot.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. My mistake. I'm looking at your sketch here, well, your picture with the little girl,
Oh, yeah.
okay? The sign is actually 5 by 7.6, and the base is another 3 by 3, right?
Right.
So really the sign is like 38 square feet, more or less.
Yeah, that's about right.
And this is double-sided.
That's right.
With the same message.
Right.
All right, I think that's fine. Because you had said the sign was much bigger.
You know, it's not that big. Yeah, it's only
okay.
about 8, yeah, like I said, 8
And
by
then you
8.
have this sign, what's this supposed to show me?
That's just a larger, that's why they put the person standing next to it. That's the scale there. This is just to enhance it so you can see it a little better. That's not,
Okay.
that's not
All
the
right.
size of the sign.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
For the sign as shown on this exhibit,
Yeah, the small one, not the big one.
yeah, and the grown adult woman standing next to it. I assume that the Morrisville Senior Center upper banner is going to be a fixed but illuminated.
That's right, yes, illuminated but fixed, right.
But fixed. And then that's the upper 2 feet.
Right.
And the lower 3 feet is the variable, changeable signage piece.
That's right.
Okay.
That's all.
What is driving the dimensions? I don't know if anybody's been by the high school. They just got their sign installed. Their sign overall is 4 foot high by 8 foot wide. And I mean, the difference between what's operable, rotating messages compared to just illumination. Overall, it seems fairly understated now that it's installed. But you guys are adding another foot to the height. And I'm wondering where the dimensions are coming from, like what's driving this?
Yeah, honestly, that we didn't compare it to anything else. This was what the sign company came up with for us. And the 3 foot additional is just a sort of a base. It's an aluminum base.
Yeah, but a sign company came up with something that isn't permitted by zoning ordinance.
Well, any lighted sign wouldn't be permitted, I believe.
And I mean,
why we're here.
part of the ordinance 465-54D, no sign placed perpendicular to the building shall exceed 4 square feet. So that's a big jump in dimension. Not exceed 4, and now we're 5 by 8.
It is, and that's why we're here applying for a variance. It's a sign, you know.
Yeah, but
is
that size
It needs to be
necessary?
a little bigger.
Excuse me, can you talk into the
Oh,
microphone?
apologies, yeah. Sorry.
Can,
Yeah, I am. I get that a lot.
thank you.
Reporters all the time, so. No, so it has to, we think it has to be a little bit bigger than what you've described. It does sit a little bit off the main road, and if we want any chance of visibility from the main road, I think it'd have to be a little bit bigger and sit a little bit more off of the grass. Otherwise, it has no chance of being seen if it sits on the ground.
Is that an intention, that people from Pennsylvania would actually see it?
It could be, I mean, whether intended or not, you know, if it helps. I mean, if this sign can reach those people, you know, I've been there many times. I think you could see it from Pennsylvania Avenue if it were.
But at the rate of driving speed on Pennsylvania, there certainly wouldn't be enough time to read a sign that far back
Well, no, you
off
would
the
have to
main
come
road.
down East Cleveland to read it, sure, but.
Still kind of wondering, like, the redundancy of signage. Is there a maximum? Is there a maximum?
I thought it was
672 square feet.
industrial.
For industrial?
Right, that's a variance from that, yeah.
So it's a judgment call for dimensions.
Yeah, I mean, really, you're asking for standards that apply to an industrial district when there are homes right across the street.
Sure, and we feel like we've taken precautions for the homes. It doesn't face the homes directly, and it will be off in the evening hours when it gets dark. It will only be lit up during the day, and light doesn't travel during the day into someone's into someone's window.
But your zoning district, community service, is not industrial.
Right. I don't understand the question. No, I don't. What? That's why we're here seeking a variance, right?
Could you just state for your client really what is the hardship? The hardship is trying to get as much message out there as possible.
Sure. It also brings the stature and prestige to the senior center. New members see a lighted sign, illuminated sign. They know it's an active community. There's that too. Other senior centers in the area, I believe, Falls Township has a lighted sign. If I could. Yeah.
In addition to what Mr. O'Malley just said, we've made some other physical improvements to the senior center. We've installed a new roof. We've installed handicap accessible doors in our rear entranceway. We're installing a new HVAC system. So we're trying to upgrade the whole property, and we think this sign is an important component of this overall upgrade.
Do you think a sign of this nature would somewhat trump the existing other signage, that maybe that could be removed as the new one was installed? I mean, you have to agree there's a lot of redundancy going on.
I'm not sure if it would trump it or not. I think we would just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it would benefit the senior center to have an illuminated sign, but not electronic?
So one without a message, without the ability to...
Well, you have other ways of communicating your messages. I mean, through website, community event calendars. I mean, there are multiple businesses in town that use manual signage effectively.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, lighted signage is a common way also to get your message out, along with those other ways, sure. We see there's no harm in adding an additional method of communication for your members.
Sorry, I wish I was soft-spoken like that.
Oh.
A lot of people do. You think the mic is exciting.
No, I'm waiting. You know.
I couldn't hear what you just said.
Oh, what did I just say?
Did you repeat it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember what I just said.
We're all here
Yeah.
to work together.
No, I had asked
Yeah.
about
Other sign,
would
Right,
an
other methods
illuminated
of communication.
sign
Yeah,
suffice?
so this sign is another way of communicating to members, events that are going on, like a website, sure, but there's no harm in adding an additional method of communication.
But does a hardship exist that would warrant an electronic sign as well as illuminated?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure, we believe it does. Sure, go ahead.
We'll give you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I think we're always looking for ways to enhance our visibility and bring more people into the facility. That's where
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, let's do different. What's the setback? That's a dimension that wasn't called out in the site plan. You're really only stating distances between the courthouse sign and this sign.
That's the right one, right? That's the one you gave me 2 days ago. The setback from where? From the road?
Yeah. Like if I lived across the street from your sign, how close would it be?
it would be in the center of that strip. I don't have the exact.
Yeah. Let me see. Hold on.
It's 2 feet, it's a lot.
Given that there really isn't visibility from Pennsylvania Avenue, it's only on Cleveland Avenue, or it's people arriving to that parking lot receiving the message, was it considered placing the sign anywhere else in the parking lot? Farther back, nearer to the entrance, so that if I'm showing up to the senior center, I'll know what's going on, but at least it's not 3 feet off the street or whatever that dimension is.
No, I think a sign that's not on a street, I don't see what the use of that would be. You're really not reaching anyone new then.
Without being completely scientific here,
Yeah, go for it.
if you look at your site plan, all right, and take the building where it says 200 feet, that's the property line. And then you get down to the sign, that little space, that's about 2 feet.
Yeah.
So you're 2 feet off of your property line. That's your dimension, more or less. Then you have all the grass medium. Do you have sidewalk?
There is a sidewalk, yes.
Okay, so you probably have sidewalk too.
Yeah.
So that's about what you have.
And the Borough Council, who owns that piece of land, has already
Yeah.
approved this.
Would anybody besides the senior center be displaying messages?
No. Purely for messages relating to senior center events.
Any other thoughts, Ralph?
We open to public comment?
Let me do that. I just wanted to do. At this point, if you've concluded
Yes.
your case and there are no more questions from the board at this point, we will, I'd like to enter into the record as applicant's Exhibit A1, the schematic that we were all just referring to, the schematic or the conceptual drawing of the sign. Are there any objections to that by anyone? No? Okay. It does not appear that there is any intervener or real opposition to that. We'll give
Oh, to
we'll
the-
give him
to
a
the
chance. We'll give him a
exhibit.
chance.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we'll give you a chance to speak.
I will. We'll make
So we will, at this point, close the record as to any additional evidence. And at this point in time, we will go to the public who is present and ask for either public comment, either pro or against. Feel free to come to the mic. Yes. Thank you.
I'll leave these.
I won't need it, but thank you. I want to thank everybody for their patience, 'cause I don't know a lot about this. And he's asked great questions. So please ask me some if you think you need to. I'm Jim Zalewski, 48 East Cleveland Avenue. I live right across the street. They're wonderful folks. I go to the senior center. I've done tons of volunteer work over there. They know, he's a great guy, Clark, everybody. They fixing a roof. We cleaned the front of the building. We do a lot, right, for the neighborhood. I'm about 80 feet from the sign, or less. I'm not far. And I don't want to be against this, but I think it's way overkill. We do have a sign. It's a little bit of a pain in the rear end because I've carried it down there. It's a stable sign with the events on it on the corner. They you know, it's a, I don't know, it's a tripod and we drag it down there and back. I just think this sign here is way overkill. For one thing, we didn't speak much about, of course, from my view, it blocks all the views. I mean, we do have some woods there and there's deer to come out. I'm older. I do appreciate sitting out in the evening and all. East Cleveland Avenue is kind of a funny street. When the courthouse is open and the senior center, we probably get 500 cars or more a day coming up and down there. Now, that's a lot of traffic. But there are people that either are going to the senior center already, or they're coming in and out of the courthouse and they ain't interested. I mean, it's a two-sided sign. This is the playground. And they sure ain't interested, the kids and all. But after it closes, we have people strolling. It's a very nice neighborhood. I call it Uptown Morrisville. It really is East Cleveland Avenue. It is. It's a nice street. We got all good people. I just think it's way overkill. I would like to reapproach putting it either at the end, like we were saying, on a corner there where the traffic is, if the neighbor will let us, or let them, or maybe somewhere else nearby. Maybe where the garden is by the, the bridge grill. There's a spot right there, and there's electric easily, I would think, easy to get to, right? And that would put advertising in, and they do a great job of letting people know of the events they send out, because I get the stuff. There's the Facebook. We get letters in the mail. I don't know what we call it. It's a monthly newsletter, and that tells us the sign out front, and then flyers and word of mouth, and they do really very well. I don't know how many more people you can fit in there for bingo. I mean, as you go over there, they're having a ball. I mean, I learned to not bother anybody. It's a religious experience, bingo. So, you know what I mean? But they do. They pack them in there pretty good, right? We do. They do a great job. It's just not about that. It's just that this sign does not fit the neighborhood where they want to put it. Now, Mrs. Stratton lives just a couple doors down. And again, on the corner, the rest of the way down is all apartments. And then people don't care. The owners of the apartments don't live around here. The kids that are going to see it don't. It's just totally blocks the view. And I just think it's out of place. I wish we could downsize it or do something else. I don't know. I like you to ask me some questions because I can't think of everything.
Mr. Zaleski, it sounds like for possible compromises, your first big consideration is sighting of the sign. So if it
Yes.
wasn't on East Cleveland, if the sign was out on Pennsylvania Avenue, you think that would be the proper sighting for it?
Absolutely, like the young lady said. That's what the traffic would see it. If we could talk to the homeowner, he comes through with his. It's a very family-oriented neighborhood. It's very good, and we could talk to him. Or I didn't want to say nothing to the guy who was out walking because I didn't know what was going to happen. It's kind of not my place to approach him in a sense about it. And I didn't know whether to say anything, but it would be a bigger bang for the buck, as they say, if we could get it out on the highway. And we do have some signs out there.
We generally, I'll say, concur with that. The problem is we heard testimony that indicates, unfortunately, we're not allowed to, or the senior center is not allowed to place it out there along Pennsylvania Avenue. And I guess that's any of that green belt area. It's all not owned by the senior center. So unfortunately, they're not able to place it there, if I understood correctly. So that's one constraint that I think everyone's up against, certainly for consideration by us. We think it would be optimal out on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's inferred that I think the senior center folks kind of would have preferred that, I think.
Oh, yes, it would be perfect. And if we could reapproach the people, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to approach the guy and.
Yeah, I don't know if that's tenable. We certainly can't control that as a board.
That.
Yeah, we just have to go with the constraints placed upon us. But
right, and then,
so the location of it certainly is your one big concern.
Yes.
And then let me go to the dimensions of it. So 40 square feet is a fairly sizable sign.
Yeah.
I concur.
It's gonna block,
I'm not saying it's incredibly insane or anything, but it's a big sign. So if this sign was to be on Cleveland Avenue, but not so big, would that be more to the liking of you neighbors that are immediately adjacent to it?
that's very good what you say, and when the fella came that was selling a sign, I asked him, because we were looking at spots. We all looked together, we were gonna go. And I said, can we have a smaller sign? And he said, they don't come smaller. And I don't know. And like I'm saying about this thing on the corner, how long ago was it that it was looked at? And how was it done? I think it needs to be revisited. Was it a letter? Did somebody talk to him? Maybe we can get down there and you know how it is. If you say, listen, he's the lawyer here. As they say, how do they say, with something for 10 years with 10-year more option, and we'll give you a couple of grand. Money helps people. And said, we'd like to put this here. We really need it. And because this guy just moved in a couple years ago, and he seemed like very nice, and he might just go for it. That's why I'm saying, I don't know how long ago it was or how he was approached. That would be the ideal spot right there, I'm telling you. And that's what I think, if we had to put a hold on this, to at least look at other spots. Because Mrs. Swadberg lives right here. That sign is like, I hate to say it, it's like almost right in my face.
What, as a third consideration, what if the sign only illuminated on one side? I mean, do you think that if the side facing Pennsylvania Avenue was the only illuminated side, I don't know that that's as great a benefit for the senior center. But as a possible consideration, I would imagine the sign manufacturer can readily turn the functionality off for lighting both sides, I would think.
Yeah, well, the side I gotta look at's the side that faces there, and like I say, the kids don't care about it. I mean, it's really a waste of, it's facing a park there, a very nice park, and the woods. And there's woods, it's probably the last open space that we have in Morrisville. Really, that's a nice piece of woods back there. It really is. And we do get a lot of wildlife and things coming in, and as I'm getting older, and also that as the borough knows, I got a ton of permits. I'm getting done with my house. I'm putting a lot of money in it. I'm concerned with the home value. Also, I mean, so somebody comes to buy your home and they look out the window and you see basically a big sign like that, they may not want it. I mean, I'm not planning on going anywhere too soon, but I am, like anybody, concerned about the property. And I've asked people, I said, well, then put it in your front yard. Oh, no. It is not in my backyard, right? But it's just too much. They're doing pretty well over there. Everybody's great. I just think it's wrong spot and all. Can I answer any other questions?
I'm finished. I don't know if Suzanne or Ralph, you folks have any questions for Mr. Zaleski? Or thoughts or whatever?
No, I just have another question for the applicant, but not for you, sir.
All right, thank you.
I guess we should.
And I just want to mention, Mr. Saluski, I think the testimony was about putting this sign on that corner was not only that was private property, but that there was an easement located on that corner, an easement for the benefit of PennDOT. I think that was the testimony. And if that's the case, then the senior center would be prohibited from putting anything permanent in an easement area, unless they'd be willing to dig it up if PennDOT needed access to that area.
Well, they're not likely to need it. I'm not sure what the easement is, or not being well educated in this. I don't know really what like an easement is exactly.
I don't either. I haven't looked at it, but I'm just relaying what the testimony was. And
Yes.
it may be just an easement, a general easement that PennDOT may need it in the future. It may not have any designated or anticipated use, but it's an easement nonetheless from
Okay.
what we were just told this evening.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. And how far of an easement do they want? I mean, PennDOT. I mean, the guys, a lot of them houses down there. I mean, my front yard's only from here to the end of that chair. Mrs. Swanton will tell you. I mean, that's my front yard to the end of that chair. And a lot of them houses there, the guy that has that property, it's about the same. So how much can PennDOT take? I mean, you have to take the guy's house down, maybe. And maybe things can
surprised.
change, or we could talk to them and see.
No, it's a good idea. I just wanted to mention that,
No, thank you.
that fact.
Ask me anything. Because I can't think of everything. But is that it?
I think
Good.
All right,
that's it.
Mrs.
Thank you.
Any other?
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Mrs. Swanton, did you want to? She lives next door to me. Are you right, ma'am?
The name is Arta Zathmary, and I'm at 42 East Cleveland. I have no problem with the sign myself. I wanted to just come and see what was going to be said. You know, it is I have to, my one thing is that to me, anybody who sees that sign is probably on their way to the senior center. You know, it isn't going to attract, well, the people that are there for court dates have other things on their mind than a senior center kind of activity. But, you know, I don't think that it's going to be detrimental in any way. It is a nice area, and if this is something that would indicate to the members of the senior citizens how valuable you feel or the town feels that they are, I think that's a good thing. You know, so the senior citizens are an asset to our area, and if they've researched this and want to do it, I'm all for it. So I live, again, right across at the other end of the building, and I'm happy with it. I'm fine with it. Okay? Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tracy Thompson. I volunteer at the center quite a bit. I live in Lower Makefield, but have property on 443 Washington Street. So to help bring some clarity, if you've been to the center, you realize we're in a very mature location. The trees are extremely large. The trunks are large. The growth on top. The actual visual of the sign is going to be challenging between parking on the street, the trees themselves, the location of it in the back. But our challenge has always been the Morrisville Center is one of the best kept secrets you have here. And when folks visit us, some of the things we get feedback on is they had trouble finding us. Even when they were in the parking lot, they didn't know that they were at the center. So the whole thing we're trying to do is broaden communication with the community and folks outside the community that want to visit the center, because we do have a lot of activities going on. It's not the best location, but it's the only location that we think we can agree on because all the other areas have been roadblocks to us. My idea was to put it up on Route 1, but someone told me I probably wouldn't get that approved, or somewhere close to the bridge, because we want to invite people in. We want to communicate what's going on in the town. It's a purpose for the center, but we can obviously open it up and let the community also advertise what's going on in town. It's a sign to communicate. If you want to find a better location, please work with us. What we have now is a sign about this large on the corner of Cleveland and Pennsylvania that you cannot see quickly enough. We have a tripod that we slept down there with letters that fall off frequently. It communicates and it gets people to make the right turn. That's a good location if you're on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's not really optimal if we want to communicate to everybody. So where did we go? We went where we felt we had the least opposition with property that belongs to the town in a location that was best seen from the street. Also, I think you have visions for the property behind the center. So the other side of the sign will add value if you're able to move forward with any visionary use of the properties behind the center and behind the courthouse. But I can answer any and all questions regarding the sign and the community and some of our decisions. I've been a member there for about 4 years and extremely active and very excited to keep this center going forward. So I invite any questions, any of the challenges you had, I would love to help answer.
Ms. Thompson, for the alternative mounting of the signage, you mentioned something, I mean, maybe the roof isn't the spot, but something cantilevered off the front of the building that would face Pennsylvania Avenue north and south? Or is that too many trees? It's
Trees. Come and check the trees.
Yeah.
I'm concerned the sign won't be seen even from our lovely neighbors because the tree growth is so enormous. They're beautiful trees, full of life at the moment. They will drop leaves, but it is a challenge. The sign that we have now in Pennsylvania and Cleveland, it's small. Could we repurpose that with another lighted sign so people could really see us? It's on a pole. It's not on the ground. It has no impervious space requirements. So any other options? What we do have now is the opportunity of funding to purchase the sign. That funding opportunity leaves us in November. So if we do not buy the sign and get it installed, anything in the future comes out of the pockets of our center's funding. Yeah, so that's another thing I want you to consider is the funding. And it's a very expensive sign because we really wanted to promote the center.
So it is being acquired under a grant type situation?
Yep.
Oh, so the opportunity may slip by?
Yep.
Or and it's probably not allowed to acquire it and then work on siting. I don't know the limitations of the grant.
Has to be fully paid by the end of November, fully invoiced and paid.
Install and everything. Yeah.
We usually don't pay until it's installed.
Yep. I see. More constraints.
Yeah,
We're all boxed in.
So again, very open to any suggestions from the community, from the town on how we can better communicate.
A couple of questions, but I'm not sure who to ask them.
I asked, well, is there a way to get a time length on the grant? Was it a state grant or federal or?
State grant, we're already at the limit. We've requested an extension that moves us to November. So we've already exhausted our extension.
I have a couple of additional questions. I'm just not really sure who to direct them to. Tracy, they're not necessarily directed to you, but really just in general. The size of the sign certainly seems to be a consideration. The argument that it needs to be large because of the trees that are on Cleveland Avenue, really established trees, their canopies are higher. So if you're concerned about visibility, you would assume your sign should be shorter, not taller. I wondered if the center had considered the court sign. You already have a 4x4 sign somewhat competing with the court sign right now. And in addition, you want to have a second sign that is not only illuminated, but also operable. Your proposed sign is 3 foot longer than the court sign. You're proposing that it sit an additional foot higher than the court sign, given that you essentially share the same real estate with the court. Is there any consideration to how your sign is actually communicating with the court sign? Because while the senior center does amazing things, I've presented there, donated to them, the court is, equally valuable. So should one business signage have more volume of voice than the other?
I'm not sure the senior center and the county courthouse are competitors in anything, but I don't follow connection there.
I'm really
I
asking why.
don't follow that there's a competing sign. I mean, the courthouse, that's
But you
county
can
property.
agree yours is substantially larger.
Well, I can't argue with that, yeah. I mean, it is larger, sure. It's a larger sign. It brings stature and prestige to the senior center. As Tracy said, it tells the members, here we are. If you need to find us, there's the lighted sign. It's easy to find. You know where you are. You know where the senior center is. It'll certainly help bring seniors, it'll help them locate the center more easily and more readily, because it's not located on the main road. It does need to be found, and a lighted sign would certainly help. A large lighted sign would certainly help it be found.
And you don't think a smaller sign could have the same effect?
Potentially it could, but this is the sign that we presented.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim can come.
I just want to mention
Just a
that,
second.
and we're is it okay to speak?
Sure, come up to the mic.
Come up,
Microphone.
please, sure.
I think it would help also, from what everybody's saying, is that we can improve the signs that are on the corner. And, when you get the grant money, I know people like to spend it all, but can we spend part of the grant money improving? Because it's a sign that we can maybe put a newer one, a better one that has reflective on it. Maybe something like that, and then the one that we do take down, that's the TP sign, I guess you could call it. Maybe get a new one. I don't know how much they are. Something you could pull down on a wagon. And of course, you got to be kind of careful because somebody will steal it, right? So that's all I'm asking is to improve maybe we can improve the signage that's out there. We spend what they spend, whoever spends whatever it is, and we don't spend the whole amount. Just give it back or something. I don't know. I think we do what it would help. We can improve whatever we can out at the highway.
I think it was brought up here already that one sign that's out front leads to a door that's usually locked, right? So this sign is actually an ideal location to bring people to the entrance of the senior center. Replacing those signs wouldn't do that.
But at the same time, you have no intention of removing the 4x4 sign that leads to the locked door.
Right. But if there's a lighted sign, the odds that they're not usually locked? No, they're not usually locked. It's open every day. So additional signage is not going to hurt. I mean, it's only going to help bring in more people to the senior center, which...
Could you not have a smaller sign that announces the senior center and save the movable, operable, illuminated sign, place it at the main entrance to the senior center, so there's no confusion where the entrance is?
Can you enter from either entrance?
That was a zoning issue with the county property.
Oh, you can answer that question.
That other sign at the front entrance, that's county land. And we would need to go to the county would have needed to go to the county for approval of signage there. Pardon me?
As well as approval.
As well as approval here, yes, that's correct.
County land is the space behind the courthouse building and before the entrance to the senior center? I'm confused where county land is.
County property.
It's county property where that front entrance is to the door that is sometimes locked. That sign there is county property.
No, I'm speaking about the rear and essentially main entrance, where you have to go down the long corridor, and you already have the 7-foot-long blue sign at the side of that corridor. Could you not put a message board operable with all your events essentially at the main entrance, so people arriving, and a secondary, more understated sign that announces you are in the right place and at the senior center near to the street? So in a sense, you could have two signs, but both of them smaller.
That's not our plan, but that's not impossible. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one last question. Obviously, we're really hammering away at the siting issue. But better to work through it now than have questions later. Where the existing sign is, that's at the approximately 45-degree angle out front, Pennsylvania and Cleveland, I'm sure you folks considered it's untenable and I guess blocked by trees and foliage. If the existing sign was to be removed and you put the illuminated sign there, which I imagine is clearly borough-owned property, that's not borough-owned property either? So the existing sign is,
The building and the entire footprint around it is county property. The parking lot next to it and the little bit of space between the parking lot and the street and everything to the left is owned by the borough.
is borough. So the existing signage out
Is all on county.
is on county property, and we'd have to,
Illuminated sign for the courthouse.
well, I think that the approaching of the county is time constrained. They don't have time to go through the whole process.
You can still purchase a sign and not have to install it.
Well, that's what I was saying to Mrs. Thompson is, does she know or anyone know if, under the grant, but she said the whole project has to be complete by the end of November. So by 30 November, everything must be complete. You can't warehouse it and defer the infrastructure work and siting and foundating of it until a later date. So you'll lose the grant money.
And we apologize, because when we came down for the electrical permit, was the first time we realized that we had a zoning challenge. And I think I walked in around June, maybe? So it's June till September that we're able to come to you with this request. So,
Yeah.
we tried to be more timely. We're not aware of the challenges we were going to come up against. You don't need to learn it once.
This is the first time it's ever happened.
But is your grant specific that it has to be installed and operable by the deadline, or that your purchase has been made by the deadline?
Final payments have to be completed by November.
Purchase, but not necessarily installed.
Can't pay unless it's installed.
Right, because what if we don't then get the variances we need after paying for it? That would be also a waste of resources.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any further.
One, I'm in.
That would be good.
I don't have any further questioning.
We can put it, I'll dig the hole myself. I'm telling you, they know I've done plenty of them around the senior center. I would, and you know what's good they do? They bring in guys that are in community service. And Clark's even opened it, give them a couple bucks and a nice lunch, and they do a great job. They do. He's a good guy. He was even gonna give the kids I suggested, let's get the kids over and put the work in $20, But anyway, yeah, we'll go down there, we'll dig the hole. I saw you out there trimming. She works hard. She mows the grass over there and everything. So everybody works hard. If we can move it to another spot, that would be great for me. I just don't want to where it's gonna be.
We understand.
I know, I'm sorry
here.
going on and on.
No.
Wrap it up.
No.
Everybody wants to go home.
We want to make something that's a good, amenable decision for everybody, and, we're just trying to work it through. And obviously, we're boxed in many ways, unfortunately, so. I don't have any further questions at this point.
No? Any other comments from anybody in the audience? Sure.
I just appreciate Jim's concerns. He's a wonderful member of the senior center, and we want to work with our neighbors as best we can, and no matter what the decision of this group is. And I appreciate him coming out tonight and sharing his opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, the board will dismiss itself right now and go into executive session to discuss the application, and we'll come back with a decision. We'll come back with a decision momentarily. Thank you.
What is this? That's what we need. And it's not. It's somehow. Oh, your fault. That's what we, you know, we could get up. Okay, now I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, what kind of permissions? Should I wait? They are the same with the whole thing.
For the school. For the sign in front of the school, high school.
Who said
It's
that?
not the same size. There's only three.
Well, Mrs. Water, we hope you'll come over.
Well, when I get old enough.
Oh, that's good for you. That's good for you. It goes too hard. What they done in March.
Yeah.
I don't know how they can grant or identify.
Well, I have a couple things going, you know, if I,
Eliminated LED.
I mean, trying to facilitate girls who
You've opened the door.
which are middle school. And they only had 2 people signed up for it, but tomorrow, so we'll see. I gotta do it for 2 people.
Worst comes to worst.
Not 2. Didn't they have, Mr. White, he's there. Okay,
So there's no contract grass, there's a sign, it's probably 3 or 4 feet. It's got to be 10 feet off the road. Most of the road has got to be 40 feet wide.
Here's my password. I just want to keep
And how are you doing at the bottom?
I cry when my hair starts. That's what.
First name, RTA. We thought we were going to.
House conditions, it wasn't. I got the Zoom, okay.
Maybe we'll just.
Over 20 years.
I don't want to be stuck in a pellet.
I
Get a wall over it.
No, you want it higher because then the trees will cover.
Yeah, but then you're not gonna see it.
Well, if you put it low, the cars parking.
Yeah,
It needs to be on both of
Well, you can get a foot off it.
No, it needs to be, so if there's a car on the street, they can still see it.
It needs to be above the car seat.
Okay. And 8 feet is gonna be below the leaves.
Yeah, I saw her out
Ready
there.
for the
She
summer.
does, she trimmed them.
And even as I trimmed the signs, I was looking at Pennsylvania, there's so many trees.
Oh, it's a beautiful.
It's such a
street.
common-
It's
Yeah,
probably,
I've been there.
really enjoy it. Oh, yeah, you've been there forever.
They're talking about renting on
Yep, I heard, yes, in fact, if they get the money for the other funding, then they'll do some,
One flow of traffic going in.
if they have that capital.
Coming on the other side, so both sides.
I, of course,
They're gonna go, they're gonna do what they do. I wanna go. All right, everybody. Thanks, I I'll see. I'll see it.
Jim, we love you.
Good man.
We're gonna put it on your lawn.
It's already on my lawn. But, the town's changing fast. It's filling up. It's changing fast. I mean, I don't know. I don't think
This town is changing fast.
Yeah, I think the town is changing pretty fast. I guess the older people do, they live somewhere so long, and stay the same, and all of a sudden, big plans.
They're not gonna take any more comment.
No, and everybody's had enough of it. I'll see you later. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
So basically, I pulled up, that's, and I signed up Monday afternoons.
Property.
I'm going to Upper Bucks campus.
That's
See
really
the girls who come.
changed hands.
And so, and when.
She probably took it in for 3 years ago.
It's called Center Tech,
So they haven't got
which is
3
virtually
hours.
network. And they do the 3 hours for an hour. And then
Looks like
they pizza for dinner.
how long it takes.
Computers.
That's
That's been going, I don't.
That's
when
not
I
a
started
jury.
off meetings, it was in 2014. So I'm almost to 6 years. So, but I'm retired from those.
2 to 1. Everybody's placing their bets. The best tip is whack them over there with a shovel and bury them in his own backyard.
No, I don't
No
know.
beer, I'm sure.
There's like,
Where they were suggesting moving it to the other side, by the front entrance, next to the district court side, they would, district court side and this side would be on top of each other. Then it would be directly across the street from his house.
they graduate.
Upper houses on that side.
So, I don't know what it is.
All on one side. Ours is the courthouse.
I had somebody go in and.
Across the street. Well, further down towards Pennsylvania, yes. But we're, yeah, and where they're talking about directly across from who's driveway. That's why further down was.
Even if they were teacher aides, then they would get, oh, I know this.
At this point, scrap it, so. How's it going down there? I hear Susan called us this morning and was a rash of shit about tables and chairs or they were on Monday, not realizing like Jonathan had already known about
Jonathan
it.
did tell us.
Because it's an annual event.
It's, everything's fine.
Academy.
Well, I was tempted to call her and strangle her through the phone, but I figured I would just leave it alone.
That comes through. Actually, then it's a fraction.
Big Red will drive you crazy.
It's probably more close to that.
I know.
that, you know, because it would be in her. Yeah. She was not helping.
I was down there before that.
I haven't gone.
No, she's just questions.
Thanks for coming.
Have a good night. You did very well, Arthur. Why do they keep saying the front door's locked all the time? It's not locked during operating hours. Well, the problem they're gonna have is they set a precedent last year by approving the exact same variance in a similar situation for the school district. Now, that was a slightly smaller size, but I don't think that matters too much. Could go on alone.
We have to go through zoning here. And, well, that's something the existing sign would have to be moved. And we have to go through county for county approval. So,
And I think Jim's gonna have more of a problem with that because it's directly across the street from his house. Instead of down at the parking lot entrances. Especially him after it gets a couple of times, we'll see two signs. But if you move it to where they're suggesting, it would be right in front of Jim's house. Well, the problem is then it's practically smack on top of the district court sign. And the county's never gonna allow it to be that close together. Oh, no, yeah, well, that would be ideal. You could donate one, they're expensive. Well, if he's willing to take it out every day. I'll talk, no action. This is one application, imagine if we had five. And usually doesn't take this long, because they don't usually ask that many questions. The application usually speaks for itself, whatever testimony you present tends to be. Where do you have a house in Morrisville? I didn't know you had a property down the street here? Was that around? Down in the lobby.
Yes.
All right.
they,
Well, for each tenant. Yeah, every inspector looks at things differently. It's like when you get your property appraised, you can get 3 different appraisals. None of them agree with each other. You mean the school district? Not the borough. The borough's property taxes haven't increased in 3 years. You mean to keep up with code? You sure are.
guys here from there?
Well, every time the property changes hands, or there's a new use of occupancy, they usually ask for chimney and mechanical, this is part of the UNO. Every UNO that requires any chimney, cert, heater, cert, electrical cert.
Councils.
I don't know.
Well, actually, none of that is new. The chimney.
Well, I can do it.
That's required as part of the UNO.
I've done
Always
it.
has.
Him, I've helped him.
If it's less than a year old, you can reuse the same cert.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's the solicitor trying to talk sense.
She looks familiar.
She's with, Miss Burnham Gray. Julie Edgar.
Seems to be good.
Yes.
Jackson, Carey County. Sorry. Parents, yes, but I'm only there, I'm for 2 more weeks. I'm leaving. So I've been there for 4 years. Carter's Riggins and
Carter's.
Right on State Street.
I do know Mel. Used to be in a wine place.
Right? The wine guy.
I know exactly.
Yeah, they're good. These guys, they are great.
Probably tomorrow. What was the big surprise with this? We do this every year. Jonathan knew ahead of time. There was no miscommunication. Well, from what I hear, I think you'd be hard pressed to know the first storm came through that utility
We just
room.
organized those tables, didn't we? With all the broken ones on top.
Why don't we get the broken ones fixed?
I go at 9 o'clock here in Fort County for us, and then we can be 10:30, 11 o'clock, so we're used to this. I was, what time are we doing? 10. I said it could either be, I could either be home by 8 o'clock or not until 9:30. I said it just depends. It's nowhere in between. It's either really short or really long. And it's just like,
$5,000 last time, wasn't it? $5,000, $6,000.
It's on my list.
I like working hour. Oh, see if they want to know.
Really?
Wow.
That first one we did, I thought we did 5,000. It only holds 220, so.
Scott, yes, talk some sense into that. This is good.
So this is like a yes or no, because if this is the way they're challenged, we can't do anything. We'll never make it raise the funds, so this is the sign.
I already told Clark somebody about.
Yeah, but we have to. Because we would never do it.
It's probably about 20,000. That includes the electrical.
they have to pay directly? Do they pay directly to the sign?
We actually, because of this grant, we would pay first and then request reimbursement. We have to request reimbursement. And that can also show proof of cancer check.
I was waiting for you to say you have a better chance of moving this 7%. Coming up with a better alternative for this 10%.
I know our road league is a really nice one. Flowers Mill, the one on Route 1.
Yeah.
That's where the idea of this sign came from.
That looks nice though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Pavers really highlight the city. Yeah, several.
I was waiting for Clark to say, well, it has to be slightly bigger because seniors don't see too good, so we gotta make it.
Yes, it was like, it says something like that. So I was thinking.
I think their hearing's worse than their city. Actually, the sign is for all events.
I thought that thing was gonna have a remote from the office, Clark. You could change.
We got a cheaper version, so it can be changed outside. Yeah.
So you just stand there,
Pardon me?
you just stand outside of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you do graphics on there, like flags?
We probably could. Oh, this is yours, Joe. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness, that's
Well, actually, when I looked from about the Rotary Club sign.
Yeah. Middletown Township Monument.
Oh, the, yes, they approved that. That went for zoning. Well, you know, it was there for the 30 years before.
It looks better than what was there, I'll give it that, but.
Plus, I think they were like doing this with most townships.
Here.
Having a big flashing in the balls.
Well, Paul should put a big F on the corner right where photo, because that's where my office is, across the street.
Oh, the small start right there.
Yeah, that's the border.
I think that corner still exists. But even their medical and legal offices there.
So in that little thing, there's something.
Well, that was all supposed to get eaten up when they redid, when PennDOT did that intersection.
Yeah, and now there's a patient first one in that one, so I guess they don't plan on doing any traffic.
I thought they were trying to help, you might have to make that crazy left-hand turn. That's the worst. I thought that the plan was to correct all that in that.
Well, that's why they picked Arby's out of there.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a realignment. I
Yeah,
thought they were
there
gonna put
was.
a traffic light there.
That's what we all thought, and all of a sudden, one day, patient first was going out. I guess that's over. Big M is there, and all of us still causing all kinds of problems. I don't know how that got.
Does Middletown make money off of it on advertising?
About 8 or 10 different advertisements for them.
I think Middletown gets some free ad space on it.
There's some companies advertising, small companies that have done hospital visits. There's some small companies advertising.
Randy Plater.
Yeah, our solicitors.
That's all.
Every time I drive by there and I'm on the car phone, I'm like, I'm looking at you right now, and he's like, that's anatomically correct, that sign. You know, because he's a shrub.
I know. You wouldn't know it's talking to him from, you know, he represents the local town, the municipal authority. Just had something with him, he's a piece of work.
He's the chairman of the zoning hearing board, not the head of zoning. Steve Moyer is the zoning officer. That's. And they're an appeals board if you want to appeal that decision.
So, we're going to come out with a constitutional amendment.
Are we what? Nothing's happened yet. Probably go to Brother if it happens.
You see what happened? Homework.
We're not doing anything on that.
Recently what happened? He was like, say, part of his dog.
Property.
Years old.
You know,
His license was.
all the ones around the bowling alley are owned by the guy who owns the bowling alley.
License to carry was. So,
That's veterans.
But it counts, so he's not letting it go flat. He didn't shoot.
Let's see.
He didn't fire it, so he couldn't get a clear shot.
Militaries.
Yeah,
And possibly where the school
I
is.
don't know, but I think he might have just said. That's crazy. Yeah. We gotta have a lot of people.
No, there's a commercial developer who has an option for the property to try and develop it. But he was waiting to see if the graph wanted it instead, where it is done around. Because he would have to transplant some land, so. But they're up to something. I don't know what they're doing, but they've been demolishing a lot of those structures on their property, cleaning their property up. Nobody cleans up their property unless they have ideas in mind.
Yeah. My parents. My daughter's actually starting to do some. Really? That's our parish, we go to church. We lived on, West Philadelphia Avenue when we first got married. We started going to the Trinity, and we were like, it's nice, it's good. Nice little church.
Work there, though. Well, it's not even scales, it's a lot. Where? Kandahar? Okay. They seem to be getting their property cleaned up for something. I can't wait to hear what the something is. I think that, wasn't it like 50 acres back there? Yeah, they're not as busy as they used to be. What's her? She's an alternate. Permanent members is away. What, the age? Homes were already burdened with that. Full load of debris, and they're not gonna drain anymore. Every once in a while, they'll go back there with the street sweeper and sweep it out, but. Drainage holes over there. And I love all the people who call me and keep suggesting it. We can park there before. I think during the Star Search we had that. And I think during the car show they have cars in there. Or is that where they put the vendors? Well, we are eventually going to be working on redoing that whole playground. Whether it's part of the grant plan or not. So that, well, that's borough property. It's a shame they didn't use that school very well. It's like their newest building. Yeah, 170 is a good year. And the shadow, we have like 1,000 a year. Student population has
Starting later, they're expensive.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order at this time.
The petition of the applicant, Morrisville Senior Service Center, is approved as to the variances requested, specifically from Article 7, Section 53 and 54 of the Morrisville zoning ordinance, subject to the following conditions. The hours of operation shall be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. prevailing time. If the senior center relocates, the sign must be dismantled and removed. The light intensity of the electronic message sign shall be so controlled so as not to create glare, hazards, or nuisances. The words, symbols, or images displayed on the electronic message board sign must remain stationary for a minimum of 30 seconds before changing to any other words, symbols, or images. No flashing, animation, or fade in, fade out shall be permitted. We'd like you to consider removing the existing sign closer to Pennsylvania Avenue adjacent to the courthouse. We'd like you to reduce the height of the sign to 2 feet off the ground as opposed to the 3 feet requested. And consider making this a polarized design to reduce the diffusivity. The project shall be carried out and the use shall be conducted in a manner consistent with the application's testimony, evidence, and representations of the applicant and its representatives at this hearing. Receipt of all permits and approvals from any agencies having jurisdiction over the same to the extent applicable. Applicant shall pay all borough expenses related to the application to the extent not already paid. The applicant shall comply with the rules, regulations, and ordinances of the borough, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the United States government, and particularly with the borough zoning ordinance and the subdivision and land development ordinance unless otherwise waived. Does the applicant accept the conditions stated? Yes? Yes.
I think that means yes.
The board will now take vote.
Okay, at this time, I have a roll call vote, please, to either approve or deny the variances as written.
I make a motion that we approve.
We actually need just a roll call vote.
Roll call.
Vote.
You have to call the roll call. You have to do the roll.
He's correct. He's making a motion to approve and then
Okay, I'll
votes in favor.
make a motion, I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
So with the
Now
roll
you can
call,
take a vote.
now,
Yeah.
so with the roll call vote, You as secretary, just call us all out, please, one at a time, of the board.
Raphael Persico,
Yes.
Suzanne Zukowski, no. I vote against the application.
One more.
Oh, Stephen Schmelzer.
Aye, I approve.
Thank you. And then just to summarize or sum up everything, just to give you the, to wrap this up, the board has 45 days to prepare a written decision. The written decision with findings of fact and conclusions of law will be mailed to the applicant and the one party who requested party status. An appeal must be filed in the Court of Common Pleas of Bucks County within 30 days of the written decision. If no appeal is filed, the decision of the board becomes final.
Okay, and that concludes the meeting. The next planned meeting of the Morrisville Zoning Hearing Board is Monday, October 7th, 2019. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion that we adjourn?
I second it.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Good night.
Thank you. Take care.
Doesn't work.
You have to turn the thing, yeah.
Yes. Thanks, Joe. Thank you very much.
That's not my fault. I tried not to get involved.
If you want to vote for me, I got to turn the machine
Oh,
off.
all right. Just take that downstairs.
I'll just take it downstairs.
I'll get tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Going home.
Long day.
Langhorne Art.
Oh, boy.
They got like 3 or 4 things on that.
That's all?
Yeah, well, they got a bunch of stuff. Actually, they're getting banners for the historic houses, custom banners. There's a lot of